Hey, this is Mark with Evolution of Warfare with one of my absolutely, I would say, top 10 games ever that I've ever played in my entire life. This is Mr. President, and it just went from demo to early release on on Steam, and so I think everything is there with the exception of a couple of things. There is, and we'll kind of show this to you. I don't know if you have seen my 40 hours that I did, but this actually plays a lot faster than on the actual physical board. You know, like on Tabletop Simulator. When I played that, what I like about this, I'm going to talk about what I like of this over the board game, you know, or the actual physical board game. One of the several of the things that are improvement, you know, there's just so many things, and I just want to go through it. But I want to show you a new, you know, from a new game, what this particular this is like. So this is your opening screen here. You have the president. I know eventually they're gonna let you have your own avatar, so you kind of choose from a mix, I guess. I don't know if there'll be any custom when they get to the final product, but. Right now they got one dude, the kind of this old gray-haired guy here. I like the look. And you're starting off with your brand new administration. Now, what's nice about this game, for those that didn't watch my 40 hours of filming, playing through the first administration of George W. Bush, that's also absent from here. There aren't these scenarios that come. I think that's going to be another thing where you can play with the conditions surrounding different presidencies, including Trump. I don't know if this, I'm guessing this is the new second edition stuff, but at any rate, I don't know. But let's get started and we'll walk through. So we're going to do a new game. It's going to load here. Early access to the White House, which is nice. It is a complicated game, that's for sure. What is nice about the first thing that I could say that is nice about this digital version over and against the board is you have so many booklets that you've got to flip to, and this makes that kind of almost obsolete, and I like this. The other nice thing is that every step of the way it's going to narrow everything down to what you have to do right at that moment. Beautiful interface that takes, especially if you're learning the game for the first time, because it is solo, then you kind of can get overwhelmed very quickly with all the things you got to focus on. This brings everything in with all the dice roll modifiers calculated based on what you've chosen, that type of thing. So let's move on here and move into the game itself. We're not going to do the walkthrough, although you can to get you oriented to the board. I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to do my own walkthrough. So we're going to deny that. Before we draw the chit, let me see if I can. Yeah, here we go. All right. So let's take a look at the board. So let's start over here on the right. So this is its own board. There's one board that is way over to the right, onto the right side of the map here. And that's the wars track. Well, they only pull that out when you're dealing with wars, and we'll get into all of that because we got to deal with them. But right now you can see there's the big portion of this is the all the different regions of the world, and there are a number of things that are going on that are being tracked. So let's focus in on the here we go. Let's focus in on the Middle East, kind of. Whoop. That's nice too, and I didn't know that. So this will tell you what each of these things are, which is kind of cool. Here we go. Let's make this a little bit larger. So each region is going to have a regional alignment. In other words, these are things you have to roll against on your 10-sided die. You can see here down in the bottom right is where the die rolling will happen, and drawing chits, which normally in the regular game, the board game, physical game, you would pull and you'd have all these counters and they would be in these cups that you'd have to get. And it is a very large footprint of a game where here you can see it. And I've got an 85-inch television that works as my monitor, and this is huge. It looks like it's pretty big, but I could see a lot of this on my TV. It's just, there's no beating a large television for your monitor. It's cheap now. You can go to Best Buy and get one for, any rate, but the footprint trade-off, these digital games are so much better, I think. So we got a trending anti-United States in this particular region. That makes sense because we've got a large footprint. This is obviously right after 9/11. We've got a number of things that are going on. Terror groups, you can see. The stability track deals with regional stability. Now, on the physical board, these two are combined. I like that they're separate here. I don't know if in the second edition of Mr. President, if that will change, but if they'll put them, side by side, I would hope that they would. I forgot to hit my timer. I don't want to go over 30, 40 minutes per episode here, but we're going to play through the administration, and I think we're going to get through quite a bit. Notice also, and so these are things you'd have to roll against. And again, if you want to know what that is, you can see there on regional stability. And you want to improve it to be able to reduce influence like Russia. All kinds of cool stuff here. But notice there are nations. There's Israel, which is an ally. There's the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia. There is Iran. There are tension markers, and we'll go over that. Basically, tensions are obviously what they are. Down here in the lower right is our military footprint. The more military you put in, you get these military footprint markers. And at the end of the year, we'll cover the calendar in a minute. That could be any number of things. It could add terror groups. It could do a number of other things. There's China and Russia influence. Here we've got Russian influence in the Middle East. Civil wars, unstable states. And then also down here is focused, in other words, we have intelligence assets that are here. They're going to help us do things like find terrorist groups and such. So that is the right side of the map. Notice that over here, Russia and China have their own deal going on. And it's their economy, whether or not they're pro or anti. Let's see if I can. Their relationship with the United States. Let's get on over here. Right now, they're pretty good with China. Their posture. Let's see. That deals with. They each get their own actions that they take. Their economy, tensions, and then all of that comes into play with what they're doing with their agendas. And as far as victory conditions are concerned, we go back over here. Where is that track at? Maybe they've taken it off here. Oh no, here it is. It's right here. So if you'll notice on this, Russia and China each have 4 tokens, and if they have 9 influence tokens out, Russia wins. If China has 15, they win. Automatic victory at the end of the year. Let's see here. I think that's going to be pretty much that goes on. So one of the things you want to keep, on the regions, down here at the bottom, the regional crisis levels. This is the other big important thing to watch. If you'll notice, this is at a 3. It's almost at a major crisis situation that you got to be very, very careful of because there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens. On the WD1 is a reference to the pamphlet. Like there's like I said, there are different books, and there's a book on major crisis. Well, again, you don't have to flip there. If regional crisis moves to major crisis, then all kinds of bad stuff happens. And so one of the focus, there are more things to focus on than there are actions, and we'll cover that in a moment. But this is one thing we'll have to deal with here in Africa so that we don't have more terror groups that blow up, and we don't want kind of these rogue states to develop, because then all kinds of stuff happens. Notice your game runs up to year 4. So every year, it's those 4 years of a presidency, and then depending on how you perform, and move over here, you'll notice on this particular track there's a presidential prestige and legacy that happens. Legacy points. This all determines if you can run for re-election or if you have to leave. I played this game earlier today, and I went through all the first 4 years, and I had a 14 rating, which was the worst president ever, they said. Any rate, you'll also notice there's a public approval track, and it's great to be higher. The lower you are, you're going to have it's going to affect your legacy, and you want a higher legacy, that type of thing. Okay, above that is what's called a conflict track, and this is where wars break out, in addition to terrorist and non-state stuff. But you'll notice right now that there are 2 things on each track. So like India, China, India, Pakistan, Russia, NATO, Russia, Ukraine. You can see all those there. And right now, the closest thing to a war looks like Russia, NATO right now. If it breaks out, then another war breaks out, and it affects your public relations and all kinds of stuff, your popularity. Again, in the physical copy, you'll notice when you don't have to how you decide what conflict is being affected is you roll a dice, and it will take you through that. The other thing you have to worry about too is a number of things here, like the United Nations World Opinion. You don't want to get too low. You want your relations with Congress to be pretty good, your media relations to be pretty good. And Homeland Security, when you have domestic, you can have terrorist groups that activate in the United States. You want it to be high, because like right now you'd have to roll a 6 or lower to be able to deal with a terrorist group. Also, there's a U.S. state of economy, so it's right now it's at 6. So every time you do an economic, or there's I think a global over here. Oh yeah, the United States state of economy impact. When our economy is good, you'll notice there's some actions that can be done. We'll cover this when we get to that. We'll just do this one next. Here is basically the rounds that you do. Right now we are we're on the very first turn. We're gonna do our presidential attributes and stuff. We'll cover that in a minute. But we're gonna start here by performing the beginning turn sequence. State of the Union on turns 2 through 4, obviously. State of economy impact, not on turn 1. We're going to do all kinds of actions here before we dive in. And notice the very first thing that happens, you can kind of imagine these are quarters of a year. So 4 phases or quarters of the year. And then like the very first thing, Russia or China basically does their actions based upon their statistics. These chits here are the cards that are all kinds of bad news. You could draw quite a few and deal with all kinds of actions. It's just nuts. I think the national intelligence thing right now is we don't have that working right now. I don't remember that happening, and that's why I think it's dimmed and it's not highlighted. Because it's not ready yet. Also, scandals, which can happen when you are dealing with your cabinet, and that's not good. You notice it could be anybody, including yourself. It's under construction, and so an update was going to happen. Probably scenarios, probably this. Hopefully the what we talked about down here, the focused national intelligence, that type of thing. Over here. The next thing that's up is nuclear missile tracks. So this is North Korea, Iran, North Korea, and China. Oh, I'm trying to think. I think Iran and China. Iran and China. And North Korea. So I think up here, that's under construction as well. So that's due. I forgot about that one. Other thing, the strategic capabilities. Right now you can see the United States has exceeds China and Russia in their strategic recon and intelligence gathering. These are dice roll modifiers. You'll see how this works a little bit later. We'll go through it. The part in the middle is kind of the domestic scene, and it's where we're going to pick our president and his or her attributes. Since it's me, I'm a guy, it's going to be a he. I'll probably just refer to he. And then you pick your vice president, and they basically, we'll see that in a minute. I'll cover that later. Same thing with the laws and stuff. I won't go over that right now, but you're seeing all kinds of bills that you can pass. This helps with your legacy and your public opinion. Then you're going to deal over here. Once we'll cover this. Again, these are all things that we're going to be doing in setup, but you'll notice there are public and administration legislation priorities over here and a campaign promise, and so all that's going to happen. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a chit. So we're going to hopefully get through this initial phase on this first episode, get it posted, and then we can come back and do the first quarter. Each quarter is an episode. So we're going to draw a chit. Notice it pulls it for you. And the very first attribute that I, as president, have is a team builder. So I get a -1 dice roll modifier, which helps make a lower die roll on cabinet impact rolls. And so that's going to go up here, if you'll notice, under the President of the United States. We get a second attribute. Ooh, likable. I am kind of likable. +3 public opinion, and that's going to happen every single turn. So that's 12 public, and that you'll notice in this game, your public approval drops like a rock. If things go really south, you could have a very high approval rating and it'll drop. So this is a very nice attribute to have. There are all kinds, but these are the two that I get. So now, next, we're going to draw our vice president. So we're going to draw the chit, and it's Alan Box, and he's basically going to get there's an additional action. I'll cover that in a minute. So notice on the chit here, you've got basically 3 numbers, and this is domestic, diplomatic, and military actions that they get. And what you want to do when you're picking your cabinet members is that you want to have them with as many actions, or die roll modifiers that you can. And so I'm going to pick Beau Hamilton because he has 1+1 die roll modifier on domestic issues and +1 on diplomatic. Nothing on the military, but and there's not like additional actions kind of thing. Next is going to be Secretary of State. We definitely want Kim or Rick Campbell, and I think I'm going to pick Kim Richards as because she will get 2 and 2. Although, man, I tell you, Rick Campbell gets military actions. I may pick him. I'm going to pick him. And then next is going to be the Secretary of Defense. And we'll do Krista Halston. Notice that's 1, 1, and 1. That's a pretty strong person for that. And then that's the Secretary of Defense. The next thing we're going to do is draw 5 random public legislation priorities. These are what the country wants out of your administration. And then you've got some choices. So the very first is going to be public or cybersecurity. That is the number one concern in the public right before you were elected. May have been a huge cyber attack by the North Koreans or the Chinese or the Russians. You never know. Energy independence. So that's a good one. Next one is going to be Social Security. It's, running out of money, so they want that fixed. And then gun legislation. I don't know about that one. And then job creation package. So that's number 5. So that's what the public wants. So let's see here. Administration priority. This is going to be my campaign promise. So notice here, this is going to pop this here into campaign promise. What it says is that I've said that, when I campaign on, I'm going to fix the bridges and increase infrastructure across the country. Now, what I want to do is because I want to maximize passing things. I agree in cybersecurity. So we're going to click cybersecurity, and we're going to make that number 1. I agree with energy independence. We'll make that number 2. And Social Security. We'll help. We'll go ahead and go. So there are my 4 administrative legislation priorities. Now, that's going to tie into the bills here. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a bill. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. These are congressional friends and congressional opponents. So the very first one we pick is Malachi Taylor, and he's got a media +1 die roll modifier. And he's going to be a friend. We're going to draw again. And this is going to be a radical, Barry Gibson. He's got a media 2. That's going to be very helpful with us dealing with the media relations. Now we're going to pick 2 congressional opponents. There's a radical, media 1. And he has a 2 strength. I forgot what that is right now. So let's see. And then Estelle Lamb is a radical. So 2 radicals on the opponent's side. But these numbers, we have 5 to 3 that basically works out here. And that is going to, because they're radical, it's going to make it contentious. In fact, let's go up here. It kind of did that pretty fast. So let's, as we were conciliatory, well, it dropped 2. And now we're contentious because we've got, so we need to work on that cooperation. Now we check to see how many action points we start the year with. Action points are the currency that allows us to re-roll or to add die roll modifiers, help with actions, that type of thing. So we're going to proceed on that. And we get 17 action points. Now we're going to go up here, and this is where we apply any effects from my attributes or exceptional White House resources. We get +3 public opinion. So you'll notice there that raises that to 46. And at the end of the turn, if I can stay up there, I'll get 2 legacy points, which is pretty good. Next, we're going to, again, we mentioned about the strategic capabilities. We're going to pick one. So where we want to pick is, where are we at the lowest? So it's cyber warfare and space warfare. So we're going to pick one, and we are going to try to do this. Now notice we get off of that Secretary of Defense. This is another thing I like about the digital game, is that it calculates all of your dice roll modifiers. On the in the physical game, you have to look in the chart book, and then it has these in really small print, the die roll modifiers. And there's countless charts. I can't even tell you. So what I love about this right here is I got everything I need to know. I don't have any DARPA capability. That's why that's scratched out. That would be a -2. And sometimes we get DARPA for a number of things. And that's rapid capability plus up. Comes from some effects. So let's see if we are successful improving our space warfare. Okay, we rolled an 8. Therefore, there is no, it's failure, so there's no effect. So now we're going to pick our second and you cannot redo that one. So I'm going to go over here to cyber warfare. And again, we got a -1 because of the Secretary of Defense's military rating. We need a 1 through 5. And that's a 9. Not rolling too good this time around. So next turn, we're going to do that. Okay, now we're going to move to setting our president and cabinet focus. In other words, each time you'll notice on this track here, if you'll have priorities 6 through 1. Here you'd have to roll a 1 on a 6-sided die to be successful in accomplishing the success effect. If you go up here to 1, it's a 1 through 5. So your focus is going to determine all of that. So what I want to do, I do not want ever. I want a lot of success in Homeland Security. I want to make that my #1 focus. Notice it decreases one terror group in the United States by 1 level. So if you get a +1 in there, which I did in the last game, it takes it down to 0. Yeah, this is good. I want to do that. The next thing I want to do is I want to keep domestic crises from happening, and that's going to give us a -1 to a domestic crisis. Then I want. I got killed in the last game I played. Public and press relations. So we're going to make that our 3rd priority. We're going to make cabinet effectiveness. No, I'm sorry. Improve relations with Congress, cabinet effectiveness, and because I'm doing really well in the economy right now, that's going to go there. So we're done with our foci. All right, now we are finished. We're right at about 20 minutes. I'm going to end this episode, and on the next episode, we're going to start with, you'll notice, we're going to roll a die, and then we'll determine if Russia or China acts. So let's go ahead and do that. Here, we got a couple minutes left. China is going to act, and then what's going to happen is, boom, you see the Chinese premier is ready to go. So thank you all for joining, and we will see you on the next episode of Evolution of Warfare.